From Kaamti village, we walked to Rudi village. It was a long trek. Mrs. Sunna Damai, single woman, has 5 daughters. Mr. Ravi Damai, their son passed away while working abroad, very poor family. Mrs. Paru Damai, old and very poor husband and wife. Mrs. Fuli Dhaami, she has 1 daughter and 2 sons. Her husband passed away and unfortunately she fell from the mountain while cutting grass for buffalo and lost 1 leg. Mr. Lulu Mahatara. Mrs. Paanu Karki, single woman, her son is disabled. Now she resides with her father who is very old, very poor and suffering family. Mr. Rann Karki. Mrs. Sarita, her husband left her. Now she resides with her daughter and 2 sons. Mrs. Rekha Baum. They live in a very old house made up of leaves and mud. Mrs. Ammi Baum. She is a single woman survived by her 1 son. Mrs. Alina Baum. The kids were very excited about the new shop. Mrs. Rita Bika. They had multiple spine operations and now cannot carry heavy stuff. We feel very happy to provide some relief to her. Mrs. Amma Kali. Mr. Devle Lohar. Mr. Jaya Bika is very ill, right now admitted in the hospital. Mrs. Nani Dhaami. They are extremely poor. Mrs. Lachima, single woman, 1 daughter, 1 son, resides deep in the forest. There are greedy, corrupt, arrogant people in abundance, even in the remotest places. But there are few very lovely and kind people also. They provide us enormous strength. This young girl asked us, "Sir, have you eaten something since morning?" We said, "Today we just couldn't get the time, but we ate some bananas." She immediately opened her bag and gave us 2 pieces of sweet bread, locally called puri. In a place where people are facing acute starvation, she gave us what she had. She is the spirit of the mountains. She is Nepal. Mr. Chunke Bhandari. They lost their land and buffaloes in a landslide. Mrs. Aarti Bika. Mr. Narendra. Everyone was so happy. Mrs. Kawasi, a very lovely and helpful lady. Mrs. Aina. Mr. Muga Kalu, Mrs. Rekha. She is very young, got married very early in life. Now the family is falling apart because her husband left her. Mr. Saune Bika, Mr. Arge, Mr. Wuzale Bika, Mr. Devlal, Mrs. Baduri Bika, Mrs. Fultunga, Mrs. Baduri, single mother. Her daughter Bhanu is suffering from recurring allergies for the past 15 or so years. They went to different hospitals but nothing happened. We will do all in our capacity to assist them. We're so optimistic that she will be alright if she takes care of her diets. Mr. Dhanapati, so many people must have been cherishing our love right now at this moment. It feels amazing.